Welcome to RAIN, the Real Estate Investor Growth Network with your hostess, Jen Josie. Join like-minded real estate investors and accelerate your business towards greatness. You will hear step-by-step strategies for success, interviews with real estate rock stars, and we will dig deep into past projects where we bear it all, including the good, the bad, and some just plain ugly. So get excited. Here's the bestower of badassery herself, the real Jen Josie. Listener discretion is advised.
Hi, and welcome back. I'm Jen Josie, creator of RAIN, the Real Estate Investor Growth Network. Whoop, whoop. Today's episode is about how I run my business using other people's money. It'll be a short episode because this is based off one of my blogs that you can always go back and read word for word by visiting RAINmastermind.com. That's REIGN mastermind.com. But before we get to that, here is today's badassery bestowment, my little badass gift to you. When you are setting goals, you don't have to know every step of the way. You just have to get started. Visualize yourself achieving that goal, and it just opens that inner GPS to unfold the path for you. So you got this, whatever the goal is, just get started. Now, on to today's episode. This is how I run my business using other people's money. You heard that right. There are times where I can't even spend their money quick enough. We work with what is called private money lenders who invest in one of our projects for a few months, and once that home is sold, their cash goes back to them with double-digit returns. I like to think of myself as a matchmaker for their money. Lenders drop off their cash to me. I dress them up, take them out to a few parties where they make friends to bring home to mama. Well, all right, so it kind of works that way. Essentially, being a private money lender is your opportunity to become the bank, earning the profits just like a bank would. It's a great way to generate cash flow and produce a predictable income stream, while at the same time provide excellent security and safety for your principal investment. You can do what the banks have been doing for years, make a profitable return on investments backed by real estate. There is no other investment vehicle like it. When we work with private money lenders, the process is simple. We find an undervalued property and then borrow the funds from you to purchase and renovate the property. At closing, you receive a mortgage on the home along with a promissory note, deed of trust, and hazard insurance policy where you are named the mortgage holder for your protection, in case of a fire, natural disaster, etc. The next stage is the property renovation. Once the renovations are complete, we'll list and sell the property. When it's time for closing, you'll receive your principal plus interest payment, which is typically 10%. It is just that simple. The goal is to continue turning that money for you while you make substantial profits so you keep coming back to us, building a long-term mutually beneficial relationship. Our equity is built in the purchase of the home, where we are buying 20 to 30% below a retail buyer. That creates instant equity at purchase. Also, in a typical transaction, we cut out the middleman costs such as, say, commissions, mortgage broker fees, and loan fees. Our attorney costs are also lower because there is less work for them to review. In addition, we provide a higher volume of work for our contractors, so they offer deep discounts, and that helps us to keep the renovation costs down. Because of our buying strategy, we are able to offer potential home buyers a fully renovated property at or below everything else in the neighborhood. We do an extensive evaluation of a property before we extend an offer, and we absolutely will walk away from deals that do not meet our specific buying criteria. We only move forward on a project if it makes financial sense for everyone involved. Private money lenders bring speed and efficiency to our transactions, and our leverage is far greater when we purchase using private cash funds. Many of the houses we are purchasing are in need of a quick sale, sometimes 10 to 14 days. A traditional bank requires 30 to 45 days to close a loan. Many traditional home sales fall out of contract because of financing issues. Using quick cash as leverage allows us to negotiate a lower purchase price and reduce our risk. Being able to offer a fast closing with private funds motivates sellers to take our offer over the competition and entices them to take a lower price than they would from, say, a conventional buyer. Also, lending guidelines are continually changing and are requiring applications, approvals, junk fees, and strict investor guidelines. They also limit the number of investment properties that can be purchased by one company. While your first intention to listen to this podcast was to see what type of crazy system I use to run my business with other people's money, I bet you didn't realize that you too could be a private money lender. I know. Who has cash like that laying around? Well, let me share with you how my broke ass became a private money lender with money I didn't even realize I could use. A popular way investors lend money is through what's called a self-directed IRA. You may be more familiar with its much more popular brother, the 401k, so I'll start there. Many employers allow employees to make pre-tax contributions every month towards a tax-deferred retirement account. You, the employee, determine what portion of your paycheck goes into this account called a 401k, or if you are a teacher like me, a 403b. There are tax laws out there that I don't pretend to understand, but I know there is a limit on how much money you can deduct from your paycheck. From there, this money, by the way, your hard-earned money, it is then invested on your behalf into the stock market and mutual funds. You may have the opportunity for a little protection by choosing a risk level you are comfortable with. From my working days, I remember getting a statement here and there and throwing it into a file folder. The thought of retirement at that time was so far removed that I honestly did not pay much attention. When you leave a job and transition into another job, your current 401k can typically be rolled over into your new employer's 401k. But in my case, when I left teaching, Janet and HR didn't do a very good job of explaining how to transfer those funds, so there they sat, collecting dust. Again, I was young and retirement just seemed so far away. I'm sure there was a flyer somewhere in my stack of goodbye papers, but I was more focused on gathering up my favorite student mementos at the time. When I accepted a position with a Fortune 500 company a few years later, they had a great 401k program where they matched 100% of my contributions up to 6% of my salary. Now that I was older, I started to pay a little bit more attention. I still contributed the max I could for each year because I was newly married and had another human to help with the bills. I also rolled my most recent 401k into my new employer's fund. A few more years later, when I left my corporate America job, I had two separate retirement funds. My 403b was just over $26,000 from 10 years of teaching. How sad is that? And my current job had $37,000 after 4 years in my 401k. Since I left my job to work our business full time, I no longer had an employer-based 401k. This is when one of my real estate investor coaches taught me about self-directed IRAs. I found a third-party custodian and combined both of my funds into one retirement account where I get to decide how that money is invested. I can continue to invest in the stock market, or I can invest in a franchise, gold, real estate. Heck, I can invest in a llama farm if I want. I just can't invest in my own company. Now, on a side note, you can borrow a limited amount per year, but you have to pay yourself interest. I'm telling you, just refer to the professionals on this topic. Moving on. Once I created my self-directed IRA, after fees, I had just over $62,000 in there. I started to lend that money out to other real estate investors between 10 and 12%. That percentage is an annual percentage rate. So my first transaction, I lent out $50,000 at 10% for 6 months. Let me say that again. I lent $50,000 at 10% interest for 6 months, and I made $2,500. Now, don't get too excited because that earned interest went right back into my retirement account for when I actually retire. However, that money is not taxed by Uncle Sam, so he can keep his sticky little fingers off it. The next time I lent $60,000 at 12% for 8 months. Let me say that again. It was $60,000 at 11% interest rate for 8 months, and I made $4,800 in interest. In just over a year, my retirement account went from $62,000 to $69,300. Now, I want you to start watching your 401k at work and see how the interest earned from the stock market compares to investing in real estate. So, here is a huge sucker punch for you. My dinky and dusty little 403b with $26,000 for my teaching days sat for 10 years. 10 stinking years. If I had known what I know now, I would have rolled it into a self-directed IRA. After fees, I would have around $25,000 to invest. So if I lent that out for 10 years to the little llama mama farm at 10%, I would have doubled that money to $50,000. Here's where it is the sucker punch. If I lent that money out on 10 real estate deals, one per year at 10%, here are those numbers through my favorite financial term, the snowball effect. So think about it. Year one, I have $25K. I lend it out at 10%. That turns into $27,500. Year two, I take that $27,500, lend it out at 10%. It becomes $30,250. Year three, I take that $30,250 at 10%. It becomes $33,275. Year four, I take that $33,275 at 10%, lend it to someone. It becomes $36,602. Year five, I take that $36,602. I lend it out again, just 10%. It becomes $40,262. I'm going to jump to year 9 just so you start getting the hint here. Year 9, I now have $53,587 that I have been lending out every year at 10%. I lend it out again year 9, and that $53,587 becomes $58,945. Year 10, I lend out that $58,945 at 10%, totaling $64,838. That is just crazy. Even though I could blame that HR lady, damn it, Janet, I should have educated myself on all the options. If you are ever in a situation where you are changing from one employer to another, look at rolling your retirement fund into a self-directed IRA so you can diversify your investment opportunities. There's a limit on the maximum contributions you can make per year, so by transferring your 401k, you start out with a much larger pot of money to invest. Other retirement accounts that can be rolled into a self-directed IRA include, but are not limited to, health savings accounts, Roth IRAs, traditional IRAs, and educational savings accounts. So, no 401k sitting around? I have a couple other options for you. If you've owned a home for a while and have built up some equity, you can use a home equity line of credit, also known as a HELOC, to invest in real estate. Say you get a HELOC for $50,000. I think the current interest rate is about 3.5%. It actually has probably dropped since then. You can lend that money out at 10% and make 6.5% interest. That's $1,625 earned on a 6-month loan. Think about all the extra spending money you'll have during the holiday season. For those of you that were taught to save every penny, the highest interest rate I've ever seen for a savings account was 2.2%, which is very, very rare. Typically, interest earned on an average savings account is less than 1% annually. CDs are not much higher. Break those lonely dollars out of jail and let them make friends, people. So, is there a guarantee on your money when investing in real estate? No. There's never a guarantee, but the risk can be much lower than investing in the stock market. For example, in the stock market, it's completely unsecured. If you take that money and invest it in real estate private lending, it is secured by a deed of trust or mortgage deed. Going back to the stock market, it is completely uninsured. In real estate investing, the collateral is fully insured. That's the house. In the stock market, you can invest at market price. With real estate lending, collateral is below market value. Back to the stock market, returns are unknown. It depends on wars. It depends on what the president is doing. It depends on how our economy is doing. With real estate private lending, returns are fixed and agreed upon term. And lastly, you have a tangible asset when you're investing with private money. There is no government-backed guarantee on privately held real estate notes. You're deriving protection from the equity in the real estate. If at any time the deal goes south and the borrower were to default on the note, you have the legal right to take the home. Essentially, you are foreclosing on them. As a private money lender, you get paid first. Private money lenders, like the bank, are on the debt side of the investment, which means when a property is sold, the lender gets paid first. The borrower on the equity side of the investment, which means any losses or gains are absorbed by them. In a worst case scenario, oftentimes the borrower just doesn't make as much profit as they originally hoped for. So I hope this podcast has opened up some possibilities for you to diversify where you invest your money. You should always consult with a professional when investing your money. Just wanted to add a few more tools to your money bag. I was raised in a home where it's not polite to discuss money. You just put it away for a rainy day. If I had fought the, quote, ignorance is bliss mentality 20 years ago, I would be much better off financially today. The good news is the rainy day has arrived and my retirement account is starting to flood from the downpour. So thank you for listening, and I hope to catch you on our next episode. Now go out there, share your badassery, and don't forget, make it a great day. Take care. Bye-bye. Whoop whoop.
Thank you for listening to RAIN, the Real Estate Investor Growth Network. Be sure to subscribe on your favorite podcasting platform so you never miss an episode. If you need more badassery, you can follow Jen Josie by visiting therealjenjosie.com or become a member of RAIN by registering on rainmastermind.com.